My name is Rafa Ahmed, and I'm a member of the 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Planning Committee.
My name is Brecklin Dyson, and I'm a member of this year's 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Planning Committee.
My name is Whit Saleh, and I'm a member of this year's 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Planning Committee.
My name is Jeremiah Jackson, and I'm a member of the 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Planning Committee.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ali Wali, and I'm a member of this year's 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Planning Committee. Every year, we look forward to connecting with our ever-growing audience to promote the life and dreams of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by promoting positive youth action, but giving the pending whether the planning committee, in consultation with various entities instrumental to our plan facilitation, made the difficult decision to make the following adjustments related to Monday's annual experience.
This is a tough call to make. The planning committee and stakeholders have made a significant investments in this incredibly unique celebration and know it's one the community looks forward to each year. But we need to prioritize the health and safety of the committee, partners, employees, and auxiliary staff who help put on the rally. It is important for us to host this inclusive event, and it didn't feel right to have a potentially partial event with some planning committee members and attendees from Lincoln and outside of the area not in attendance.
We are dedicated to upholding the memory of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by providing more opportunities. The 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally will showcase a pre-recorded program on January 15th, a live-streamed version of the 2024 Call to Action program on January 19th, and an in-person presentation of the Call to Action program on January 20th.
The execution of this rally will demand all groups tightly drawn together and become one. Not one Lincoln, not one day, but a challenge for schools, organizations across the state, and even Iowa, to show up as they did in 1963, flooding the Lincoln Mall and pouring out of buses.
Postponed 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Call to Action program will be made available so the community can get together through a combo of hosted in-person and live-streamed event opportunities.
Monday, January 15th, a pre-recorded program will be streamed from 9:30 to 11 a.m. It includes learning segments, insight, and speeches from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., prior rally segments, and previews of new parts unveiled on January 19th and 20th. On January 19th, 2024, the 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Call to Action will be live streamed from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Schools and organizations are encouraged to use the discussion guide on the rally website.
10 a.m. Saturday, January 20th, 2024. The 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Centennial Room, Nebraska Union, University of Nebraska-Lincoln. In-person attendees get a chance to win stakeholder giveaways, exclusive content to be unveiled, no virtual offering. We'll check mlkyouthrally.com for the revised agendas. Thank you for your support. We look forward to your continued support of the Planning Committee's mission. Please do not hesitate to contact our lead advisor, Peter Ferguson, at mlkyouthrally@gmail.com with any questions.
Every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening sky. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
How, Madakiapi, Chawashte Anape, Chiuzapielo, Ta Maya Wambli, Imachiapielo. In my traditional Lakota language, I have greeted you all as relatives, for Lakota people believe that we are all related. I have said that I shake your hand warmly, and I have told you that my Lakota name is Maya Wambli, or Canyon Eagle. My non-native name is Maya Abrask, and I've been asked to give a land acknowledgement this afternoon. Before we begin today, we want to acknowledge that we are living on the past, present, and future homelands of the Pawnee, Otoe, Missouri, Omaha, and Kansas peoples. The Salt Basin around present-day Lincoln attracted many indigenous nations to this region. The Omaha called the area Niskithe, or salt, and their women used eagle feathers to collect the salt, which they used to cure buffalo meat. Under pressure from settlers and the federal government, the Otoe Missouris ceded the land that became Lincoln to the federal government in 1833 and 1854. And this forced out the tribal peoples who had called the Niskithe home for many generations. Native peoples of many nations live in Lincoln today and contribute to our community's vitality and diversity. And today, we thank them for their stewardship of these lands. Wopi Latonka, thank you.
Good morning. I said good morning. Welcome to the 20th annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally and March. My name is Simone Smith, and I'm a senior at Lincoln East High School and a passionate member of the 20th annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally and March Planning Committee. In 1993, the late Dr. Leola Bullock charged the community's youth to develop something that would present the dreams of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to the city of Lincoln. In 2015, 20 years later, my peers and I continue to embrace that challenge and stand before you and continuing to honor that challenge laid before the youth of this community. We stand before you today, Monday, January 19th, recognizing the formalized civil rights movement of the 60s. While segregation can no longer legally be practiced, the challenge of equality for all still exists. This is why I stand here today. 20 years later, we stand here to ensure that civil rights do not take a backseat to the new iPhone or Call of Duty video game release. We stand before you because LeBron James going back to Cleveland should not gain more attention than the achievement gap between minority and white scholars. We stand before you today realizing we live in a society that tells us we can be president, at least if you are a man. Yes, we still have work to do, which is why I stand here today. I stand here today because we cannot forget the distraught faces of Hurricane Katrina victims in 2005. We stand before you to remind you how we unified as a country after 9/11. We stand here today because there is work to do when in 2014, the state of Nebraska as a whole has the highest rate of black homicide victimization in the country, not Omaha, the state. My peers and I stand here before you as a reminder of hope, just like we have done each and every year. This year's theme, the blueprint of...
He was a civil rights leader who ultimately paid for his convictions with his life. Biography presents Martin Luther King Jr. King was born in Atlanta on January 15, 1929. The son of a Baptist minister, he too entered the seminary. King met Coretta Scott while earning his doctorate. They married and had 4 children. Preaching nonviolent protest, King stood up to injustice and led the Montgomery bus boycott. His role in the civil rights movement grew with the 1963 March on Washington. There, King delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, which propelled the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts. Tragically, James Earl Ray assassinated King at a Memphis hotel in April 1968. 50 years after his death, Biography honors the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
I said that before I knew I was. Flow like a butterfly, sting like a bee. His hands can't hit what his eyes can't see. I'm young, I'm handsome, I'm fast. I can't possibly be beat.
We got some difficult days ahead. What does it matter with me now? Because I've been to the mountaintop. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
She, soon enough, will taste the sweet syrup that is freedom. She speaks no English, but soon hopes to be in the land of the free, where she will face adversity so brief that she will not need to complain.
Writing poetry is my favorite way to use my own voice. This is a poem I wrote called Talking Gets Us There. It's normal to notice what makes us different, because what makes us different is what makes each of us so special. There's beauty in every type of face and in every type of freckle. From the curl of your hair to the color of your skin, no one is exactly the same, not even twins. But across time and place, people have been treated unfairly just because of their race. So heroes get into good trouble. They have to struggle for a long while, but when they win, it's worth every mile. People of color still experience racism today. So it's up to all of us to say enough is enough, to speak out with all our hearts. And that starts at home. It starts with asking questions about race when we're taught about it. Together, I know we can tackle racism. But first, we have to talk about it.
Watch your favorite shows anytime on the PBS Kids video app.
Your Honor, my name is Sylvia Mendez, and I'm a 9-year-old Mexican scholar. I had a great summation all worked out. I know that may seem like a pretty big word for a 12-year-old, but let's be honest, I'm smart like that. I'm not going to read it though. I may be young, but I'm experienced. You see, in all of this legal maneuvering, something has gotten lost. And that something is my rights, equity, and justice. It is incumbent upon us as a community not to just talk about equity, but to actually seek it, find it, live it, and walk together towards it. I stand before you here to share my walk and injustices going on in Westminster schools and across this country. My walk begins each morning to the bus stop with the other Mexican children. Together with my friends, we ride in one bus and get dropped off in front of a beautiful manicured school for white children. Judge, it's really pretty and has palm trees and a wonderful playground right in the front. And then we have to walk to our school, the Mexican school, from there. I'm happy to be with my friends, but you need to know that I'm smart. and know that I am just as smart as the kids in any other school, private, public, or charter. Exhibit A, Your Honor. As you can see, we get books, but as you can tell, they're the ones other schools won't use anymore and are ripped and torn. Exhibit B, Your Honor. In kindergarten, I was reading Dramatic Treehouse series. In kindergarten, Sylvia was probably learning how to do a basic stitch. I'm a scholar at Goodrich Middle School and know that learning won't always be easy. I need teachers who advocate, counselors who see my potential and put me in harder and gifted classes. Your Honor, I thought before that I was fighting for me to go to that beautiful school, but I'm standing before you today in 2020, like I did in 1958, and see that I'm fighting for the injustices going on in Westminster and inequities going on in school districts across the country, even right here in Lincoln and Nebraska. Judge, I know if you decide in our favor of me and my friends to integrate that white school, there will be some that don't want me there. I've heard stories, and unfortunately, people in really important government offices, some principals, parents, and staff, will ask, what are you doing here? Don't you know that Mexicans aren't allowed in this school? Some people will think we're in a lot of trouble. Like some guy that used to have a reality TV show. He even said that we have a lot of problems, and that we're bringing those problems with us. We're bringing drugs, we're bringing crime, or just some, you may assume, are good people. Judge, I set out to that we are all equal in the eyes of the law. That is not the truth. The eyes of the law is humanized, yours and mine. And until we can see each other as equals, justice is never going to be even-handed. It will remain a reflection of our own prejudices. I'm asking you to rule not just in my favor, but her favor, his favor, hers, theirs, and every single youth that is here today, and make all schools across this country not just integrated, but equitable. The defense rests, Your Honor.
Miss Mendez, yours, Scholar Brown, Jackson, and similar cases come to us from the states of California, Kansas, Nebraska, South Carolina, Virginia, and Delaware. In each instance, both Latino and African American students were denied admission to schools attended by white children under laws requiring or permitting segregation. You, Sylvia Mendez, Linda Brown, and even those here in 2020 contend that segregated public schools are not equal and cannot be made equal. The question presented by all named above is, at what lengths must we prove that segregation is not an equitable educational practice? Today, education is perhaps the most important function of state and local governments. Things like school attendance laws and the high amount of public funding demonstrate the importance of education to our democratic society. We come then to the question presented, the segregation of children in public schools solely on the basis of race deprive the children of the minority group of equal educational opportunities? We believe that it does. A sense of inferiority, lack of relationships, quality teachers with diverse experiences, lives, and beliefs affects the motivation of a child to learn. We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities are inherently unequal.
I think I can say concerning this great gospel singer in our midst, our dear friend, my great friend Mahalia Jackson, that a voice like this comes only once in a millennium. If there is any doubt in anybody's mind concerning whether we have a movement here in Chicago, you ought to be in this church tonight.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Say it to convince me.
Freedom.
Yes. Yeah.
This stuff matters.
The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally and March Planning Committee inspires and empowers youth.
You're trying to create a path for your future. We've created a path for where they're at right now. People before us created a path for where we're at.
What specifically Dr. Bullock was so good at was putting it back into the hands and from the mouths of youth.
Inequality is not sacred and not something that needs to be preserved. It needs to be wiped out entirely.
The rally is always finding ways to keep going and pushing forward.
Now's the time to take steps to make a change.
This is not about any one individual. This is about the group as a whole. And ultimately, this is about how do we support positive youth action.
Our goal is to empower, engage, and educate our community.
We will look back at the injustices of the past to make sure that they do not repeat themselves.
It's not just Dr. Martin King, but Dr. Leola Bullock, Dr. Shanks. We're part of their story. We're reaping a benefit from the seeds that they sowed in the ground.
Youth are the most important part of our community. We will be empowering youth's voice.
Our work together as a community does matter. It impacts how they act at school. It impacts how they now handle themselves in the community because they've been put on a stage where they now have better expectations for themselves.
This is something that needs to happen because if it doesn't, then all of those guaranteed rights go out the window.
It's up to us to take the steps.
I want to empower you, educate you, and engage you into what we're going to say at the MLK Youth Rally and March Planning Committee. We're going to take the steps together. Good?
Not caring about how the other person differs and looks. That classroom encourages the youth to blossom into who they are meant to be. In this America, I'm accepted.
In honoring the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The Walk with Love began in 1963 when a 34-year-old Dr. Leola Bullock and the Reverend Everett Reynolds led marchers during the 1963 Civil Rights Movement.
Volunteering in the community, or speaking to amazing groups like this one. It's filled with my peers, and a special shout out to those from LHS and those watching, like my brothers and sisters at home.
Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I want to know, what was it like in your time? When my kids ask me, what was it like in your day? I dream that I can share my experiences that would give some indication to them and ensure they understand and can answer one simple question. What can I do to make things better? Dr. King, I want to know, what can I do? No, what can we do to make things better? Is it true in your day that you wanted children like me to grow up in a nation where we wouldn't be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character? Is it true in your day that you graduated from Booker T. Washington High School at the age of 15? Is it true there were Jim Crow laws which prohibited interracial marriages, segregated schools and trains, and restrained minorities from being in the same buildings and hospitals as whites in your day? Is it true in your day that you did not want to be a pastor growing up, but instead a fireman? Is it true, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that in your day you've been to the mountaintop and you've seen the promised land? Is it true that we will get to the promised land? When my kids ask me, what was it like in your day? Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., can I truly say differently? Is it true that today we still have hatred that us young people don't know how to handle, but hope that you will somehow work with us so when we have children, they will not have to face the same issues that we face today, like school shootings or issues as simple as life, where mothers and fathers have to have that conversation about self-esteem and survival, that talk that you are pretty enough, or you have to be 110% better, or you are important. And problems like police brutality, in which too many biracial and African American families teach their minority children that keeping your hands on the dash, not if, but when you are pulled over, is just as important as keeping them on 10 and 2 when driving. Will I be able to tell them, in 2008, many headed to the ballot box, and a black man who once could not walk in the park would stand in Chicago and accept the nomination to be President of the United States? Is it true that on my time, on October 30th, 2018, Jewish worshipers in the Pittsburgh synagogue were killed simply because they were Jewish? That in my time, some believed that America needed to be made great again? This still confuses me because it isn't perfect, but it is great. I always believed it takes all to believe things are great, not one to tweet about it. That we were a nation of understanders, not haters. Is it true that in 2018, there are people that racially profiled other people, like Barbecue Becky, Corner Store Caroline, or Permit Patty? That in my time, I got to see the most diverse Congress and Senate in my history. Oh, you would have been proud to see Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, the first Muslim woman in Congress. Yeah, in my day, you wouldn't believe it. Kids wanted to be a black superhero on Halloween. Black Panther over Superman. Wakanda forever. Is it true, like Maya Angelou says, that still, like air, all rise? Is it true that we have developed numerous policies and policy recommendations throughout various positive social justice acts that will guide us in the direction in which the world we have envisioned will become the reality, but not without the sung and unsung victims, such as Freddie Gray, Victoria White, or Rekia Boyd? Yes, Reverend Dr. King, my hope is that in their day, I can have the talk that a school resource officer will truly be that, a resource to all black, white, Native, Latino, and Hispanic scholars. I hope, Reverend Dr. King Jr., that myself and my peers would truly be judged by the content of our character and not by the color of our skin. Would I tell them that you do have a fair chance in the workplace, or they do and can achieve what they are passionate about without the fear of looking different than their peers? Would I tell them that they can live anywhere and be anything? Is it true? I'll be able to tell them that they can live the good life and make it to the promised land.
Even today, yesterday, in 2021, there is still segregation. The 2021 Belmont Track Scholars bring to life This Is the Dream by Diane Z. Shore, Jessica Alexander, and illustrated by James Ransom.
This is the dream.
Our nation was founded on the belief that all men are created equal. I'm here to represent a struggle that has gone on for 300 or more years.
However young you are, you have a responsibility to seek to make your nation a better nation in which to live.
We are the diners who have sat and who have waited at white. White only counters ignoring the hate.
Honestly, I just felt like I want to cry. I was so pleased, so happy, so emotional.
We embraced our power.
I introduce to you Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I remember that Monday morning that I was able to be in court, Chief Defender.
A lot of people don't think that younger kids are capable of understanding everything that's going on in the world right now.
I want you, yes you, to take steps with me for justice for Breonna Taylor. I walk together, taking 2.23 miles of steps with kindness, honoring Ahmaud Arbery.
This is like living proof that they do and that they're acting in it as well.
We must walk together for 8 minutes and 46 seconds for equality for George Floyd.
So many people think, oh, they're so young, they can't understand this, but they do. They live it from their hearts and souls. They brought it, they shined, they empowered, they shared their voices, and they delivered the inspiration that the world needs.
Let us be sure our hands are clean in the struggle. Let us never fight with falsehood or violence, hate, malice, but always fight with love.
We will be able to live with people as their brothers and sisters. No seat, no ride. No seat, no ride. What did we say? No seat, no ride. Yeah!
Sincerely, I'm so glad. I did tears up. It shows that those kids, they have what it takes.
Even when the words not seem harsh or offensive, the impact is still shattering.
It's just amazing to see the things that she wants to do at this age, and I'm so very proud of her.
What each of us must come to realize is that our intent always comes through.
If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep on moving forward.
And so as I weep now, it's because I think back to what I saw, and they believed every word. And then to see them say, we're not finished yet.
But I'm not done yet.
And they said those 8 affirmations.
I love myself, I believe in myself, I'm proud of myself, I'm a genius. I can, I will, I must, and I got this.
And when I see that, I know there's hope for the future. I'm convinced that there's hope.
Just to see them when they finish and just see their chests pumped out, and honestly realizing but not fully realizing what they just did is awesome.
That's the power of being a team and everybody caring enough about one another to help take care of each other, right? That was amazing. I loved it. Thank you.
I think their ability to do that was well beyond their years, but I also think it becomes a life skill that they know that they'll need, moving forward.
They can, they will, they must, and they got this.
we motivate, we elevate, we educate, and they graduate. They can, they will, they must, and they got this. We motivate, we elevate, we educate, and they graduate. Happy New Year, happy your year. Keith L. Brown, Mr. I'm Possible here, also known as Uncle Keith, and I am honored to be a proud supporter of the 29th annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Youth Rally, Lincoln, Nebraska. Listen, this is going to be such a moment, a powerful moment that will be transformed into a movement, a moment that will be transformed into a movement by these powerful, prolific, purposeful, passionate, servant leading young people. You are here for a rally. That's what you're going to see. Rally. Rising, artistic, leading, loving youth. Rising, artistic, leading, loving youth. Walk together with love. A walk together with love. Yes, they are rising. As Lifting Lucas said on Bigger Than the Score, hosted by Purposeful Pete Ferguson. Leading Lucas said, these older people, and I assume he was talking about me, and most likely you, he said, these older people will look at the kids and be able to say, I got hope in this new generation and hope for a better world. And Lucas said those words, but he was echoing the words of one of his fellow scholars who was on the radio program that day, and all of the scholars who are an intricate part of this rally on today, for they are rising. Not just rising out of their desks every day in school. No, they are rising to lead in their communities, lead in the great state of Nebraska, lead in the nation, and lead in the world. They are literally rising to make this world a better place. They are artistic. What you're going to see today and here are speeches and spoken word pieces and skits and other forms of artistic expression that will come from the internal excellence and come to the forefront from these young people on today. They are leading. They are leaders in their homes, leaders in their schools, leaders in the community, and leaders in our nation. And they are loving youth. Yes, they are spreading love, for it is a walk together with love. No, they're not talking about a walk in the park where you are getting some self-care or exercise. They're not talking about a walk in the halls of their various schools. They're not talking about a walk in the workplace. They're not talking about just walking. They're talking about a walk together with love. And that's going to be a long walk. For it is a walk of righteous indignation. It is a walk for co-conspirators, not just allies. It is a walk for justice, a walk for peace, a walk for love, a walk together for equality and equity. So it is a long walk, a walk of resilience where we cannot give up and we cannot give in. And so when they are done on today, you're going to be able to say GOODJOB, good job, good job. And this rally will ignite you to go out and be a greater servant leader, a greater supporter of our youth, a greater advocate for all that comes to the forefront on today. This rally is meaningful. It is significant. It is a moment that will turn into a movement. Be empowered, not devoured.
Glory comes,
hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon. Formed against, yes, glory is destined. Every day, women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtapositioned in us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. Objective is to stay peaceful. We sing, our music is the cuts that we bleed through. Somewhere in between, we had an epiphany, and now we right the wrongs in history. No one can change the world individually. It takes the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. Welcome to the story we call victory. The coming of the Lord, my eyes have seen the glory.
I want to go back to the day when we used milk crates for basketball hoops, when hands up, don't shoot was for b-boys blocking jump shots. Now brown boys blocking cop shots. Instead of hoop dreams, it's cell blocks. Instead of hoop dreams, it's grave plots. Give me shirts versus skins instead of blues versus black. I want to go back to the day when hide and go seek became hide and get got. When kids played doctor and gave out cootie shots. Now, kids get shot whether they hide their hands or not. Chalk outlines bodies instead of chalk for hopscotch. I want to go back to the day when Mother May I was a game we play. Mother, may I jump, may I crawl, may I walk this way. Now, may I's at the cries of a mother's mourn asking, may I identify the body of my daughter, my son. May I understand why he was dead when he was unarmed. May I fight for her name without slander or harm. May I assume she resisted because her body was twisted. May I believe he couldn't breathe because his throat was constricted. May I march in the street without getting evicted. May I have a fair trial and get his killer convicted. May I rage for a moment for my baby who suffered. May I say, screw the system. Mother, may I am his mother. I want to go back to playing red light, green light. Now, red light, blue light is my nightlight. Our cries of injustice are yelled into a void. Our cries of injustice are yelled into a void. Our cries of injustice are yelled into a void. But it's just us they fail to avoid using excessive force. Because America condones it. Because when black is in the light, people still don't see this. I just want to go back to the day when we played cops and robbers. Now, black lives getting robbed by wannabe cops. Do you think cops remember being kids when we all just used to play together?
Once upon a time, there's a man named Martin Luther King Jr. It's funny to think about because now we know his name so well, but at one time he was just a kid. Like maybe you're a kid watching this. Well, he was a kid too. Well, maybe you're a grown-up. That's okay too. Former kids are welcome here. I don't discriminate. Martin Luther King grew up to be a great man, of course, but things weren't all that great in the world while he was growing up. Not everybody was treated like they were somebody. And I believe that you should treat everybody like it's their birthday. But they didn't do that. People looked at the color of their skin. And that's how they decided if they were friends or not. Not cool, man. That didn't make him feel good. That didn't make anybody feel good. But his parents helped him grow up. He went to church. He learned about love. He grew up to be a minister to help a lot of people. He did all sorts of cool stuff. He helped a lot of people learn about love too. But still, he looked around and said, things should be better. He wanted to change things, so he did stuff. He decided, instead of spreading the hate, he would spread the love. He wanted to bring people together. Where people were hurting, he stepped in to help. He marched with them, he walked with them. He walked arm in arm with everyone. Sometimes it didn't go well, but he kept going. Sometimes he ended up in prison, but he kept going. Some people didn't like him, but he kept going. Some days were hard, but he kept going. Love does that, it just keeps going, even when things are dark. And, well, I don't like this part of the story, but things did get pretty dark. Someone who didn't agree with him shot him. He died in April 1968. Now keep pressing it. Why are you telling us this sad story? Come on. I know it. I'm sorry, but it happened. I don't like that happened. Now I gotta tell you something. When things aren't awesome, it can be tough. And things will always be awesome, but your response can be. Martin Luther King's response? It was awesome. Today I just wanted us to think about this. Isn't it cool that we can change things? Like any of us, anybody. He dreamed and he changed things. And he dreamed and he kept sharing his dreams. They became not just his dream, a lot of people's dream. Like this one. I have a dream that little black boys and black girls will join hands with white boys and white girls and become sisters and brothers. That's a pretty good dream. Let's dream like that. That could change things.
My name is Rafa Ahmed, and I'm a member of the 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Planning Committee.
My name is Brecklin Dyson, and I'm a member of this year's 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Planning Committee.
My name is Whit Saleh, and I'm a member of this year's 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Planning Committee.
My name is Jeremiah Jackson, and I'm a member of the 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Planning.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ali Wali, and I'm a member of this year's 29th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Planning Committee. Every year, We look forward to connecting with our ever-growing audience to promote the life and dreams of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by promoting positive youth action, but giving the pending whether the planning committee in consultation with various entities instrumental to our plan facilitation made the difficult decision to make the following adjustments related to Monday's annual experience.
This is a tough call to make. The planning committee and stakeholders have made a significant investments in this incredibly unique celebration and know it's one the community looks forward to each year. But we need to prioritize the health and safety of the committee, partners, employees, and auxiliary staff who help put on the rally. It is important for us to host this inclusive event, and it didn't feel right to have a potentially partial event with some planning committee members and attendees from Lincoln and outside of the area not in attendance.
We are dedicated to upholding the memory of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by providing more opportunities. The 29th annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally will showcase a pre-recorded program on January 15th, a live-streamed version of the 2024 Call to Action program on January 19th, and an in-person presentation of the Call to Action program on January 20th.
The execution of this rally will demand all groups tightly drawn together and become one. Not one Lincoln, not one day, but a challenge for schools, organizations across the state, and even Iowa, to show up as they did in 1963, flooding the Lincoln Mall and pouring out of buses.
Postponed 29th annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Call to Action program will be made available so the community can get together through a combo of hosted in-person and live-streamed event opportunities.
Monday, January 15th, a pre-recorded program will be streamed from 9:30 to 11 a.m. It includes learning segments, insight, and speeches from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., prior rally segments, and previews of new parts unveiled on January 19th and 20th. On January 19th, 2024, the 29th annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Call to Action will be live streamed from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Schools and organizations are encouraged to use the discussion guide on the rally website.
10 a.m. Saturday, January 20th, 2024. The 29th annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Centennial Room, Nebraska Union, University of Nebraska-Lincoln. In-person attendees get a chance to win stakeholder giveaways, exclusive content to be unveiled, no virtual offering. We'll
check MLKYouthRally.com for the revised agendas. Thank you for your support. We look forward to your continued support of the Planning Committee's mission. Please do not hesitate to contact our lead advisor, Peter Ferguson, at MLKYouthRally@gmail.com with any questions.
That's the sound of the wind working on the chain gang. That's the sound of the wind working on the chain gang.
This march will not continue. You may be sitting, watching, and asking, why direct action? Why? Why sit-ins? Why? Why marches? Why? Isn't negotiation a better path? You are exactly on your call for negotiation. Indeed, this is the purpose of direct action.
Hello, my name is Sam Stecker, and I talk a lot, but I try to speak up for what I believe is right, what I believe matters, what I believe can make a difference for good in this world. But the older I get, the more I realize It's more important for me to amplify the voice of others, and that is why I'm here today. I want to amplify the voice of the 2024 Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Planning Committee members. They have poured their heart, their soul, their minds into the work they have done, into the words that you are going to hear. And I'm going to continue to speak out for what I believe to be right, what I believe matters, what I believe can make a difference in this world, but more importantly, listen to these young people, because what they say matters. What they say makes a difference. What they say is right.
A wise man once said, DNA is in our love print. Written inside our bones, deep in the narrow marrow path is something greater than ourselves. Love is the blood that flows through our ever-growing limbs. Love is the atom that embraces us in warmth. Love is the passion we put our body through to reveal the best parts of ourselves. Love is our guiding compass that brings us to greatness. Love is loving hate. Love is a passion that can be a beaker for others. Love is living.
I'm gonna have to go ahead and turn this over to Dr. Pearson right here and let him go ahead and give that feedback.
Wednesday was I said I get a gift because I get to speak to people, and it's just me outward. But what I put out, I get back in multitude. And if I give love simply, then it returns in full. And Wednesday, I got that thing from you. It was amazing to have you accept a mission and a message and then take it and make it greater than it was, which is an actual love print. That's actually what this is. And again, I'm standing here this morning with tears in my eyes just having you read it, because going into rooms around Lincoln, the idea of the station, the idea of the show, the idea of education and community is just making it better than it is, leaving it better than you found it. And I can say, as I told you that day, I feel better about trusting my future here in Lincoln because of you. Because of you, your ability to take a simple, kind thing and make it greater gives me hope for the city, for the education system, for what you're going to do in this world going forward. I can relax and sleep well at night knowing that we're in good hands.
What happened is that some of our philosophers got off base. And one of the great problems of history is that the concepts of love and power have usually been contrasted as opposites, polar opposites. So that love is identified with a resignation of power and power with a denial of love. It was this misinterpretation that caused the philosopher Nietzsche, who was the philosopher of the will to power, to reject the Christian concept of love. It was the same misinterpretation which induced Christian theologians to reject Nietzsche's philosophy of the will to power in the name of the Christian idea of love. Now we got to get this thing right. What is needed is a realization that power without love is reckless and abusive, and that love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best. Power at its best is love, implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love.
March 23, 2022, Supreme Court nominee Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, during her confirmation hearing, was asked to speak directly to young people across the country who may be doubting themselves as they think of their own futures. Jackson, the first Black woman to be nominated for the court, said she wanted to tell young people what a stranger once told her as she was walking through Harvard Yard during her freshman year when she felt she didn't belong. That stranger told her to persevere. I wonder how I, Emma Brown, a member of the 28th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally Planning Committee, would respond to this question to young females, like myself, as I answer the question, who is king to me? I would say with pride, as James de la Vega said, sometimes the king is a woman. In an interview, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was asked if he had educated his wife on anti-war issues. King said, "She educated me." Coretta Scott King created and co-chaired the National Committee for Full Employment as well as the Coalition of Conscience. She spoke for racial and economic justice, women's rights, children's rights, and religious freedom, as well as many other powerful causes for over 40 years. Women have been the backbone of the whole civil rights movement, Scott King once said. We know from history, sometimes the king is a woman, like Charlotta Spears Bass, who was an activist, journalist, and politician. A local store owner lended her $50 to buy the California Eagle in 1912. By the 1930s, it became the largest black newspaper on the West Coast, with a circulation of about 60,000. Sometimes the king is a woman, like Amelia Boynton Robinson, who became the first African-American woman, as well as the first female Democratic candidate to run for a seat in Congress for Alabama in 1964. She participated in the event of Bloody Sunday, which drew many eyes to the civil rights movement. Sometimes the king is a woman, like Grace Lee Boggs, who tackled issues related to labor and civil rights, feminism, Black power, Asian Americans, and the environment. Even in the fictitious kingdom of Wakanda, the kings are women. Recently, Wakanda Forever has become the highest-grossing female-led superhero movie. Sometimes the king is a woman, like Harvard's Claudine Gay, recently named their second female president. And to note, in 347 years, there hasn't been a person of color leading the university, until now. Sometimes the king is a woman, like Juanita Moore, who recently received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame nearly a decade after her death. In 1960, she became only the 5th African American nominated for an Oscar. After being nominated to play the part of a maid, she refused. She was out of work for over a year just because she decided to take a stand for herself and others. Sometimes the king is a woman, like South Carolina Gamecock championship coach Dawn Staley. Coach Staley was reminded she was a king even before her 2017 national championship. At the time, she was gifted a piece of Purdue head coach Carolyn Peck's championship net. Peck was the first black woman coach to win a national championship title. Peck stated, "Now that there's a 1 and a 2, referring to Staley's championship win, there will be a 3. Dawn Staley wanted to carry the tradition of speaking into existence the kingdom all women experience as national champions. Coach Staley made the decision to award not just one piece of the net to a coach, but to 80 black women coaches across the country. Sometimes the king is a woman, and one who lives in my home, my mom, Sarah McCardle, who opened a restaurant on her own in the beginning of a pandemic and continues to persevere through the struggles of being a small business owner in Lincoln, Nebraska. She continues to remind me every day to push through difficult encounters despite the circumstances. Supreme Court Justice Jackson closed her interview, as I will close my piece today, with a hope to inspire not just women, but all people, to lift up their voice and live life as a king, no matter their gender. Let us not forget the many times then, now, and in the future. Sometimes the king is a woman, like myself, Emma Brown.
So I realize that this is a rough road, but a catalyst for change in a society is usually persona non grata with those who have been the beneficiaries of the system. A catalyst for change has to be able to withstand the insults, the humiliations, the abuses, and the slurs. What's wrong with my running for president of this country? After all, for 15 years, I have been the ghostwriter for a lot of them.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will.
I may be tall, but I am somebody.
And I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. With every voice yes it will. Then I go to my brother.
Oh yeah, that's me.
And I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Oh, there have been times that I thought I couldn't last for long.
We're here this evening because we are tired of that. And I want to say that we are not advocating violence.
With her friend, Dr. Leola Bullock, we're two of Lincoln's most notable civil rights activists.
Next was I laugh. I got hot. And since an ice age syrup to cool my nerves. You know you are a dreamer, just like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and me, Asia Fleming, when you can complete this sentence. I have a dream, and this is what I believe. Thank you.
I'm here in front of you today because I am my brother's and sister's keeper. And when you say the name Jacob Blake, make sure you say father, make sure you say son, make sure you say uncle, make sure you say cousin, but most importantly, make sure you say human. Human life. Let that marinate in your mouth, in your mind. A human life. Just like Kaya Roll, who was handcuffed with zip ties and put into a back of a cruiser just for having a tantrum from side effects of her sleep apnea. All she wanted to do was to wear her sunglasses, but what she got in return was a police visit. Just like Georgia, who has placed laws in their state to prevent Black, brown, and African Americans from projecting their voice when it comes to voting. It has been 152 years since Africans got the right to vote. 152 years. And now all of a sudden we're taking that away? When the voter suppression law was signed in Georgia, there was a painting of a plantation where over 100 African Americans were enslaved. The symbolism, demoralizing and horrible, is too fitting. Just like the Freedom Riders who participated in Freedom Rides, which were bus trips through the American South in 1961 to protest segregated bus terminals. 3 of whom were horrifically murdered by the Ku Klux Klan. I say their names in honor. 24-year-old Michael Schwerner, also known as Mickey. 21-year-old James Chaney. And 21-year-old Andrew Goodwin. What do you see when you look at me? Yes, me, Addison Olds, a member of the annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Planning Committee and an 8th grade scholar at Irving Middle School. Uneducated, curly hair, dark skin, a threat? Or do you see a straight-A student, an athlete, or most importantly, a human? Trayvon Martin was just a human who was shot and killed for looking suspicious while carrying a bag of Skittles and a bottle of juice from the corner store. They are just like every single one of you. Kaya Rowley was just 6 years old. You were 6 years old once. Maybe you're going to be 6. Maybe you are 6 right now. Maybe you have a child or grandchild that has thrown a tantrum. Kaya is like you. The Freedom Riders are just like you too. You are here because you want to make a change. You want, no, we need you to walk together with us for justice, civility, equity, and kindness, alongside those that may be a different race than you. You don't care if you look different. All you care about is how you can make a difference, not about the color of your skin. You are like the Freedom Riders because you two come together today knowing that it isn't going to be easy. Trayvon Martin was walking home, talking on the phone with a friend, carrying some snacks, wearing a hoodie. Tell me you haven't done any of these things. He was just like you, living life and doing everyday things. Just like you and just like me. So many people reach out to me saying that they're sorry that this happens. Well, don't be sorry, because this has been happening to who I call my family for a long time. Longer than I can account for. It happened to Emmett Till. Emmett Till is my family. Philando is my family. Mike Brown is my family. Sandra Bland is my family. Vincent Chin, an Asian American, he is my family. This has been happening to my family, and I've shed tears for every single one of these people. This is nothing new. I'm not sad. I'm not sorry. I'm angry and I'm tired. As Fannie Lou Hamer once said, I'm sick and tired of being tired. By now, I have not cried one time. I stopped crying years ago. I am numb. I've been watching injustice. I watched like you did, January 6th, an attack not just on our capital, but of the freedom of people. Like Annie Nixon Cooper, born just a generation past slavery, who couldn't vote for 2 reasons. Because she was a woman and because of the color of her skin. The murder of my peers, discrimination against my heroes, and people telling me and many of my black and brown peers that we are not good enough for the job. I've been watching CEOs that are men given higher salaries than skilled, talented, educated women with the same credentials. Not only have I been watching it in the 14 years that I've lived on this planet, but I've been watching it before I was even alive by reading in my textbooks and learning from my elders. I'm not sad. I don't want your pity. I just want change. And I want you to be my brothers and sisters' keeper. Thank you.
I was born in 1968, and
so young.
Yep,
so young.
Yeah. And I feel very much this. I'm also the son of immigrants, and so I feel very much this sense of generational obligation. I basically have done nothing. I won the lottery being born in this country when I was born. I didn't have to do any of the things that you've had to do. I didn't have to make any of the choices that you had to make. And I would like you to explain to people, not only my age, but to the young people in the room, how it is that we should define this generation's challenges that we should be willing to put ourselves completely on the line for, and how we, in this age where it's not as stark as troopers standing on the bridge every day, how does this rising generation find and summon that same courage to stand up and fight the way that you did, Congressman?
Well, I must tell you, you're much better educated, you're better informed, you know, all this new technology. We didn't have a fax machine. We had one of these old mimeograph machines, just turn. You have an obligation, your generation, young people have an obligation, a mission, and a mandate to push and pull and not be satisfied and do everything possible. I tell young people all the time, I spoke at 7 college graduations this past season, and I said, the 3 young men that I met and got to know, they didn't die in Vietnam or the Middle East or Eastern Europe. or Central South America or in Africa. They died right here in our own country. And I hear too many people say, I'm not going to participate. That's not my cause. We have to participate. Politics control everything that we do in America, from the time that we're born into the time we die. So you have a moral obligation, a mission, and a mandate to get out there and push and do everything you can to leave this little piece of real estate we call America a little greener, a little cleaner, and a little more peaceful for generation yet unborn.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was in Bloom's Stein's department store in Harlem for a book signing. Izola Curry, a well-dressed 42-year-old African-American woman, approached the Reverend and plunged a letter opener into his chest. When police arrived, Officer Al Howard warned him, "Don't sneeze, don't even speak." King's surgeon told him that the police officer's warning had been right, and a sneeze would have caused his death. 10 years later, in his I've Seen the Mountaintop speech of April 3rd, 1968, King recalled the details of that day in a letter he received from a white 9th grade student at the White Hills High School. Today I, Mallory Retzloff, member of this year's planning committee and an 8th grade scholar at Waverly Middle School, present my version of her letter. Dear Dr. King, I'm an 8th grade student at Waverly Middle School. While it should not matter, I would like to mention that I am a white girl. I read in the paper of your misfortune and other suffering, and I read that if you had sneezed, you would have died. Let me repeat that. If you would have sneezed, you would have died. And I'm simply writing to you to say that I'm so happy that you didn't sneeze. I'm glad that you didn't sneeze. Actually, I'm really glad that you didn't sneeze. Because if you did, you wouldn't have been there to influence others and me about equal rights. If you would have sneezed, you wouldn't have been around here in 1961 when young people like myself decided to take a ride for freedom and end segregation in interstate travel. If you would have sneezed, you would not have spoken the words that have inspired so many even today. I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. If you would have sneezed, there would be no leadership, no guide, nothing would have been fulfilled. If you would have sneezed, I may not have the opportunity to achieve like Althea Gibson and have the opportunity to play sports. If you would have sneezed, I wouldn't have been able to be part of something like those in the 1963 Children's Crusade did, and we do today, through the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally, marching and standing up and speaking out for justice. If you would have sneezed, there wouldn't have been people like Shirley Chisholm who broke the glass ceiling for others, including me, who will plan to be an orthodontist. If you would have sneezed, we wouldn't be on the path for equality. Not only you, but we all should strive for. So even though you didn't sneeze, bless you.
If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been here in 1963. The black people of Birmingham, Alabama, aroused the conscience of this nation and brought into being the Civil Rights Bill. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have had a chance later that year in August to try to tell America about a dream that I had had. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been down in Selma, Alabama to see the great movement there. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been in Memphis to see a community rally around those brothers and sisters who are suffering. I'm so happy that I didn't sneeze. And they were telling me. Now it doesn't matter now.
every year, as we continue with the youth rally, it starts to feel more and more like a family reunion. We are about uniting the family and bringing together the young and the old. We sing, we deliver speeches. This is a place where we empower, educate, and engage scholars' voices while honoring the legacy of our elders. In this space, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and others, our elders whose legacy we wish to carry on. We stand here reflecting on the steps that he and others like Burnt Corona, Race T. Hay Reid, Corky Gonzalez, 3 Latinas who helped Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to mobilize the Poor People's Campaign to fight poverty. Just like family reunions, we gather around and we have sweet potato pie, black eyed peas, and collard greens, what is made of scratch biscuits. As we marched up the road this afternoon, it didn't look like what we saw in 1960. Oh no. What we saw were young men gambling and fighting and cussing. People, both black and white, saying the N-word. Young women with no clothes on, gyrating all over this land. We fought hard to get through these doors. People like Dr. Jake Kirkland, Dr. Leola Bullock, Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, fought hard to get through these doors. A generation was birthed on the back of millions, despite of the trauma and the endurance. These slaves, or as I like to call them, enslaves, worked this ground to not only open their own doors, but to get through these doors. They bought the land from a slave owner, and that's the kind of blood we have running through our veins. That's the royalty, and that is stocks that we are made of. But let me ask you, what happened to us? What happened to us? Who are you? Who are we? Do you know who you are? Who are we? Nebraska. What happened to the pride and the dignity and the love and the respect that we have for one another in this good life? Tell me that we didn't lose that in the civility of the election or through the pandemic. Where did it go? And how do we get it back? I'm going to tell you. It starts with take your place.
What are people going to experience? We talk about empowering, educating, engaging. On each of those points, what can they expect when they come on?
They can expect power. They can expect some people that they never expected to have a loud voice. They're going to be shocked that the youth that they might have ignored, they have some stuff to say.
Okay. And how are you looking to engage individuals? Like your piece, tell us a little bit about your piece and how will it engage individuals that be like you but may not be like you?
So my piece is an adaptation of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speech to the Other America. And I took his piece because I really loved how it talked about like how there's a split in America. There's two realities. And I put my twist to it to make it more relatable, to show people you guys might live in one America, but there's this other side of America that I want to shed some light on.
But I'm going to ask you to recite a little bit about your piece after I ask Lucas a little bit about his. So Lucas, you're involved. Why do you enjoy being involved in the rally piece? And what are you and your peers doing for the rally this year?
Well, what we are doing, we're trying. I forgot what I was going to say about that, but so my piece, I know about my piece. My piece is about Sonia Maria Sotomayor.
Okay.
So
and she's a justice for the Supreme Court,
Yes,
and you're actually
yes.
involved in kind of a book project. I guess I should have led you in a little bit better, but you and your peers are doing a book that your school does annually and through Belmont Elementary, the Belmont Community Center. And so through that process, you all have developed a kind of a play based on a book, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what's that book? Do you remember?
Justices.
Justices. And so what has been kind of the best part about it and what's been the hardest part?
Best part is as you get older, I know you learn about history, like in middle school. They have subjects in that is history, but there's only like in elementary school, you don't really learn that history a lot. You learn like one class every like 2 months, I think. I don't know, but and then you get the power also from just reading it, and shows you the history that you had before you were born, the generation before you.
And so you said your piece was on Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. And the book about justices talks about different aspects of justice that have happened but may have not have happened, and then how you can take steps to address that. And so I know you know a bit about your piece. Would you be willing to share some of that with us?
You want me to say everything that I remember so far?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll Harrison will shut you off when you're, but we'll let you keep going. Give us a little snippet.
And I say to you this morning that if you never found something so dear and so precious that you will die for it, then you aren't fit to live. You died when you refused to stand up for truth. You died when you refused to stand up for justice. To find justice, ask all kinds of people to join your search. Justice needs to hear every side of the story. Your Honor, justice is me, Justice Maria Sotomayor, a New York native and American lawyer and jurist who serves as the third woman, the first woman of color, the first Hispanic, and the first Latina to serve on the Supreme Court. Justice is my dissenting opinion that we must understand the devastating impact on justice, and our decisions cannot be overstated.
I'm going to have Wiz do a little bit of a snippet of her piece, but scholars just go ahead and they're going to empower, educate, and engage, and it's free and it's open to the public, good for individuals 4 to 90 years of age. And so, Wid, I'm going to have you do a little bit of your piece, The Other America.
One America is beautiful. It's peaceful. You can walk into a preschool classroom at the Belmont Community Center, otherwise known as the BCC, and you see kids of different ethnicities playing together, not respecting each other, not knowing hate, not caring about how the other person differs in looks. That classroom encourages the youth to blossom into who they are meant to be. In this America, I'm accepted. I'm not judged or discriminated against. Kids of all ethnicities and races are given the same opportunities to play with blocks, go to recess. And in a sense, this America is overflowing with a miracle of prosperity and the honey of opportunity.